beauty is that God first calmed his emotions down. And then God went on to give him the solution in verses 15 to 18. I wish I could read all of that, but I am under a time constraint here. Emotional high is a very scary place to be in. Because even though Elijah was God's messenger, the overthinking and fear made him ask God, please take my life away, which meant he was also suicidal. Mark 14, verses 33 to 36. Mark 14, verses 33 to 36. I'm reading from the Common English Bible. He took Peter, James, and John along with him. He began to feel despair and was anxious. He said to them, I'm very sad. It's as if I'm dying. Stay here and keep alert. Then he went a short distance farther and fell to the ground. He prayed that, if possible, he might be spared the time of suffering. He began to feel despair and was anxious. How powerful yet powerless was Jesus. He was powerful because he was the Son of God. He was powerless because he was a human destined to die. I cannot put myself in Jesus' shoes. Imagine being disrespected, mocked, ill-treated, knowing that your loved one is going to deny you, knowing that your loved one is going to betray you, and knowing that you're going to die a very, very, very painful and pathetic death. Jesus was a person who went through every single negative emotion in this world, you name it, and Jesus has gone through it. He said, I'm sad. It's as if I'm dying. How many of us have actually felt this in real life? And I know many of us have, because when life and responsibility becomes heavy and we wish to disappear from that moment. Verse 35. He prayed that, if possible, he might be spared the time of suffering. He prayed that, if possible, God would spare him from this time of trouble. Can you imagine how heavy were his emotions in his heart at that moment that he had to beg to his Father to spare him? When a powerful person like Jesus goes through it, what are we humans? As God's children, we are not immune to these emotions. We are going to suffer. Being God's children does not give you guarantee that you will not suffer. But what guarantee God gives us is that the moment we do and the moment we call upon him, God will come and rescue us. Verse 36, Jesus says, he says to his Father, take this cup of suffering away from me. However, not what I want, but what you want. He is at this point begging to his Father. When Elijah in the wilderness had called upon God and said, God, I want to die, take my life away. God came immediately, God calmed him down, and God gave him a solution. But for a man who had come to this earth and his sole purpose was to die for us, God could only just sit and watch his pain. In this whole verse of when Jesus talks to God, he has literally felt every emotion: depression, anxiety, stress, and even suicidal. And for him who has gone through all these emotions, don't you think when we call upon him, when we ask him to help us, there is no one like him who can understand us and rescue us from these emotions? Deuteronomy 31, verse 8 says, the Lord himself goes before you and will be with you. He will never leave you or forsake you. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. Psalms 34, verse 18 says, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and save those who are crushed in spirit." Amen.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sharon, for sharing with us key takeaways from Elijah's life as well as Jesus' life on how they dealt with discouragement and emotional struggles.
Shall we go to the next speaker, Sister Lucia? She's going to brief us about youth and social media mental health. Sister Lucia, why is screen addiction becoming unhealthy, and what are the practical ways that we can control screening for our kids, and how social media is affecting our mental health of the youth today?
Hello, good evening everyone. Happy Sabbath. As you have heard the topic, I got the most interesting one. And the youths, listen up. It's for the youth. Social media, screen addiction. So why it is, it's something maybe you're hearing a lot because it's having a negative aspect. So that's the reason why we all are here discussing on this topic. I may not deal into it very, in detail, but I'll just go through with you so that we all are aware and what we can do about it. So it has become a major concern worldwide, especially because of the rise in smartphones, gaming culture, and the social media platforms. Is there anyone among the youth, say ages teenager to 23, 24 years old, that you are not at all engaging in any social media platforms? I'm not gonna, try to pick you, but if you are not engaged in any, you are good, you're sorted. Because I know some few teenagers who are not engaged in any social media platforms, and there are some who don't even have WhatsApp, just because they know what they want in their life. They have their goals. They don't want to be distracted. But sadly or unfortunately, that's not the case. That's not the case in majority. So that's why we are here today discussing this, yeah? So what is the definition of screen addiction? Particularly, I'm dealing on that. Refers to the excessive and compulsive use of digital devices to the point where it interferes with your daily life, studies, sleep, and relationships, which are the basic aspects of a youth life, isn't it? And there are many, many studies that have been done because it's a concern now worldwide. So the studies have linked all this social media usage and screen to link to addictive pattern of usage. So that comes the negative aspect. Let's see some of the causes of screen addiction. Dopamine reward cycle. You all know what is dopamine. It's what makes you happy, motivated. But if it's too little or if it's too much, it can be detrimental and linked to conditions like depression, addiction, Parkinson's disease, to name a few. So what are the dopamines in the social media context? The likes, the comments, the views, the followers, these are your dopamine, all right? So you want to get more, you go back for it. You have the next one, social validation. Again, the same. The likes, the comments, the views are your social validation. You are considering that as a approval signal. Then we have thirdly, we have entertainment overload. We all can't deny now that we are loaded on our social media or just our phones with lots of entertainment. And with all these features of, endless scrolling and then the autoplay features, I think it's hard to just get away from it, isn't it? There's no stopping point. Like you watch a movie, read a book, at least there is an end. But nowadays, the YouTube shorts, the TikToks, endless scrolling, there's no stopping to it. I would also like to share with you that these social media platforms use something called as hyper-personalized algorithms. What is this? They track what you watch, how long you watch, what you like, what you skip, and then finally, in a very beautiful way, they present to you that perfect video that you can't escape. And then you keep on getting engaged to it. It's a trap. So it's just like, it's not just for the youths, isn't it? Even for adults, we all are also victims of it. And then there is also like nowadays the YouTube Shorts. So it mentions that they use this fast, high stimulation content. Fast and high stimulation. So even our children, sadly, they are also like, they just love to watch it because it's so stimulating, music-wise, video-wise, in every way. So that's their way of capturing us, the youths, and then, that's how they get their revenues. Then the last cause that I have is peer pressure. Everyone's doing it, my friends are doing it, so why not? Yeah? Let's see the negative impacts that it can have on youths. Mental health issues, anxiety, depression, low self-esteem because of the comparison culture that we have. Like, somebody's having that, somebody's looking beautiful, somebody is doing this, why I'm not able to have that comparison. And then it just affects your self-esteem. Then we all should be also aware that it affects mentally because there is cyberbullying. You all know that. There are online predators and scammers, which we all are aware of. So all these things can ultimately lead you to mental health issues. Physical health, it can lead to eye strains, headaches, poor sleep. And you may start even neglecting physical activity. That can ultimately lead to weight gain and obesity risk. It can impact your academics, of course, because you are so distracted, you can't focus. So your productivity will go down. Your communication skills will go poorer. Maybe you were good, but it will become poorer because now you are not communicating with real people in the real world. So since that is reduced, your communication skills will reduce, and obviously all the other experiences. Then lastly, I have, it will weaken relationships. When you don't have real-time, real-person relationships, you're not spending time with them, you're not communicating, you're not sharing, then how can your bond be strong? So, and also sometimes you have, maybe you meet up, okay? You young people, you meet up and then you're trying to have a good time. But one of your friends are always involved with, related to social media, not paying attention to you in real. Then you don't want to hang out with them. So you kind of weaken your bonds with friendships related to anyone, like friends, like family members as well. So what are the solutions that we can, I've just jotted down a few. Let's have some healthy habits. Like let's set screen time limits. Say no devices in the bedroom, no devices in the bedtime, especially if we can do that practically. Because especially bedtime, I want to emphasize is that at night the mind is empty. The online predators and scammers are the most active during that time. And that means the devil is at work. So there's high chance that you might be trapped in it. We can also do digital detox, just have it over weekends and try to just plan it out. Then turn off unnecessary notifications. Second, parental or school role. First, we should be the role models, teachers, parents. That's how the youths, the young people will look up to us. And also, maybe we can, with the boundaries and rules, we can do some random checks. Yeah, random checks of our children, what they're watching, what they're doing. And then promote the outdoor activities, hobbies that they enjoy. And have open conversation. If anything has happened, and any incident has happened, they should also try to have someone that they can talk to. So you should be the first person of contact. We should not shame them. We should empathize with them and work it together, because it's not their fault. It's just the evil world that we all are living in. So lastly, I would like to just bring in as a Christian, the biblical context that can be applied. First, I would like to relate to 10 Commandments, which says about thou shalt not covet. So we should not be envious of people, what they have, what they're doing, and that's already there, clear. Then thou shalt not lie. Sometimes people lie about their lives, about everything on social media, which is not true. And even if we are doing it, which is wrong, thou shalt not have other gods before me. If you start idolizing too much of some things or person, even that is also in the 10 Commandments. Ephesians 5 verse 16, it commands us to use every opportunity and time wisely, because the days are filled with evil. And lastly, the verse that I would like to say is 1 Peter 4 verse 10. It tells us to use our unique spiritual gifts to serve others. So even if we use digitals, we should use it for maybe ministry, bringing out positive positive things in people's life, and use it for bringing people to closer to God. So these are just a few of it, and I'm sure even you all are trying your best. Let's continue to do that, and then let's also educate ourselves. Since we don't have much time here, look into it. If anyone is struggling, if even you need to help someone, let's look into this, and then we can help one another. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sister Lucia. And I think so she has given us the important highlights and facts that we need to focus, how that we can reduce the screen times, and how we can maintain our routines, and how we can detox the digital life, which is affecting us and reducing our bondings between our children and our family and friends.
Our next panelist, Dr. Verkan, will speak about addiction, trauma, and coping mechanisms. Sir, can you please share with us few healthy coping mechanisms that we can use to deal with such mental and emotional issues? And how can our church community be a safe space for people dealing with such issues?
Thank you for giving me this privilege. I'll straight jump into the topic. Addiction and trauma or mental health is one of the biggest challenges of the world today. In the very onset, I want to say that if we want to overcome this problem of addiction in pornography, drugs, tobacco, alcohol, gossiping, all kinds of addiction, I would say that addiction is a disease, And so let's go to the Bible straight. If you go to the Old Testament, you find the story of Naaman. What Naaman did was he realized he was sick and he was looking for a solution. And the moment the solution was presented to him, he went to that solution. You see? And did God help him? Yes, God indeed helped him. What about Samson, the strongest man? When he realized that he has become weak and he was blind, what did he do? He offered a prayer. God, just this once. Did God answer his prayer? Yes, God did answer his prayer. What about David? I'm sure he went through that mental trauma. He had committed adultery. Now the woman is pregnant. He had killed her husband. What a mental drama he must be going through. He knew exactly where he had to go. When he was pointed out that he had committed sin, he went to God and it said in Psalms chapter 51, Lord, give me a clean heart. So the thing that I'm trying to present to us today, church, If we are having mental challenges, trauma and stress and anxiety, if we are having the problem of addiction, we have to first realize that we are having this problem. Then we have to be willing to be changed. Then go to God and ask Him. And I tell you, in the book of Ezekiel chapter 11, God said, I will give you a new heart. That's the promise, and God never fails. You come with me to the New Testament. You find the story of Peter. He realized that he is drowning and dying. What did he do? He prayed to God, Lord, save me. Jesus immediately put out his hand and pulled him up and saved him. Yes. What about that leper when he came to Jesus? He said, Lord, if you are willing, please heal me. What did Jesus say? I am willing. The man who was suffering from leprosy knew that he was sick. He needed to be healed. He came to Jesus and he said, I am willing to be healed. Lord, if you are willing to heal me, you can. God said, yes, I am willing. And he was healed. When that paralytic man was sick, who brought him to Jesus? Was it not his friends? Church, I think this is the role that we have to do. If we know that some of our members are struggling with mental issues, stress, anxiety, addiction, it is your role and my role to make sure that we take him to Jesus. The 4 friends brought him to Jesus and Jesus healed him. There was a man by the pool for 38 years sick, trying his level best to get into the pool to get healed. On his own, it was not possible. But when Jesus came and asked him, do you want to be healed? Get up, walk, take your beddings and go home. He did, got up, went home. That's what Jesus promised. You read in Matthew chapter 11, verse 27, 28 and onward, Jesus said, all of you who are heavy laden and burdened, come to me, I will give you rest. That's an assurance. Jesus never failed. But above all, when Christ was dying, bearing our sins on the cross, that agony, what did he do? He went to his Father and he said, I surrender into your hands my spirit. That's what God wants us to do, church. That's why in the book of Philippians chapter 4 it says, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Church, if you are having mental challenges, anxiety, stress, depression, come to Jesus. But you have to be willing to change. If you go to 1 Peter chapter 5 verse 7, what does it say? Put all your cares upon the Lord, for He cares. And I want to tell you, church, God cares. Come to Jesus. But before you do that, you have to realize that you have a challenge and you should be willing to change, and God is willing to change you, and God will change you and remove all these burdens from you, and you will find peace in the presence of the Lord. I propose to you, Jesus, come to Jesus.
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing with us Bible characters and the promises that are found in the Bible for those who are dealing with such issues.
We go to our next speaker, Dr. Joel. He's going to brief us marriage and mental health. So the question goes to Dr. Joel, what are the common mental health struggles that couples face today?
Thank you very much. This is a very, very vast topic, and I want to make it as simple and practical as possible for everyone. When God created man and women in His own image, both of them were given different characters to completely portray God. So women were created as the nurturers and men as the providers. So ultimately, because of this, what happens is we are very different in our natures and we face very different problems. And a lot of the problems in a marriage setting or in a family setting comes because we do not understand each other's nature. So today I want, if anything I can do today, I want to show you, men and women, things from the other's perspective so that you can see what they are actually going through. Okay, so we'll first talk about some of the problems that women face, then some of the problems that men face, some of the problems they face together, and how to deal with them. All right, so the basic difference in men and women is biology, the hormones. So women have different hormones, men have different hormones. So because of this, some of the hormonal problems that women face, they face during puberty and adolescence. Their bodies are changing. They're discovering themselves and how their mind is changing as well because of the hormonal changes. And when they start getting their periods, you have something called premenstrual syndrome, where you feel very irritable, anxious, your productivity is less, you're crying sometimes, mood swings. All these things men cannot understand because we do not face this, right? And the biggest mental health challenge that most women face, which is specific to their gender, is around pregnancy. So when they get pregnant, again, their body changes. And especially in the first pregnancy, they can foresee their life changing irreversibly. And sometimes that is something very difficult to deal with. And after, especially, the child is born, the hormones are raging. And you have a bunch of medically recognized problems that women can face. So you have something called postpartum anxiety, in which, again, you feel very irritable, very jittery. You are unable to make decisions properly. You're unable to care for your child properly. And then postpartum depression, which is a little more severe form of that, where you're completely numb. You don't have any emotions. You don't have any feelings. You feel completely empty, completely drained, physically tired. And the worst is postpartum psychosis, when you even have thoughts of, harming yourself or harming your child. So all these things are related to the hormones and related to the bodily changes that women undergo because of these hormones. So after this, there are some different roles that men and women play in their day-to-day life. This is a broad generalization. Of course, some men may perform a lot of maternal roles, whereas some women may perform a lot of paternal roles, but this is a broad generalization. So in domestic life, a lot of the child-rearing responsibilities fall upon the women. And a lot of their problems in school, their behavioral issues, all are left to the women to deal with. Also the household responsibilities, the cleaning, the cooking, the chores, and sometimes also they have to deal with their parents and in-laws on top of that, their health, their well-being, their finances. I'm not saying that the men don't deal with all these, but somehow, in the majority of families, it ends up that the women are dealing with all these problems. Now, of course, in today's world, it is impossible for, women to be exclusively at home and taking care of the home. We also have to go to the workplace. When we go to the workplace, we often find that a lot of workplaces are dominated by men. And there is, even though it's become quite egalitarian society now, there is still a undertone of discrimination. And sometimes it is very difficult for women to maintain work-life balance, given that they have a lot of responsibilities at home as well. And sometimes they feel that they are held back in their careers because it's difficult to find that balance. Now, the other thing about women is, historically, women have been nurturers and they've always nurtured in groups. They are very, very cognizant of what their peers think about them, or what their peers think about them, or what their peers think about them. Women always value the opinions of other women. And sometimes it can be very brutal when, women don't get along and they try to pull each other down. And social acceptance is also a very important part of their own identity. Now I want to ask the men one question. I want all of you to think about this and answer very carefully. You need to raise your hands, not a big deal. Okay, I want all the men to think about this. In the past year, 1 year, how many of you have genuinely felt scared for your own well-being or the well-being of your children? Actually scared. That means something bad is going to happen to you. How many of you have felt scared for your well-being or the well-being of your children in the last year? Please raise your hands. Men. I see 2 or 3 hands. Okay. Now women, I ask you the same question. How many of you in the last year have felt genuinely scared for your well-being, your safety, or the safety of your children in the last year? Please raise your hands high. High. Want to see? Women. Okay? Now, men, if you look around, there are a lot more, women who are raising their hands than men. Why? Because this is another defensive response of the nurturer, where they're always concerned for the safety of themselves, for the children, and also for the future, because they always want to provide the best future for their children and their husband. So these are all the problems that women face. Men, that part was for you. Okay, so this whole part that I said, that was for you to acknowledge that these are the problems that women face. And now men are not without their own problems. They also face problems. Usually they are the main breadwinners, and they usually end up working more dangerous and physically demanding jobs. There's more pressure to perform. There's more pressure to progress in their careers. There's often less flexibility in, a lot of times, seniors or superiors would be willing to give the lady some time off because of family issues, but men find it a little difficult to find flexibility in their work. Okay? Oftentimes, the financial burden of the entire family, and in many instances, the extended family also falls upon the man. And financial planning, usually, it's their worry. And sometimes it is required of them to be mentally resilient, and they are not, society is not so welcoming of men showing their emotions or showing their vulnerability, especially in the family setting. Sometimes women need the man to be very strong and very stoic, and sometimes their vulnerability or their difficulties are not expressed because they have to show that level of emotional fortitude. And sometimes men struggle with self-worth or identity, and sometimes also health becomes an issue for them. So these were the problems that men face. So, life is not all hunky-dory for men as well. So women, that was for you. Okay, what problems do men and women face in a family situation? Often we find different worldviews or different philosophies from different upbringing. And when we think of parenting techniques, money, or work, sometimes our philosophies do not match. So this can cause a lot of misunderstanding. Sometimes there might be, abuse in the family. It can be either one. Either spouse can inflict abuse on the other. It can be physical, emotional, even financial or social. Financial where money is being spent without the knowledge or the permission of the other. Or social where, one spouse isolates the other from friends and family. Some spouses can exhibit toxic behaviors like narcissism, lying, comparing, belittling, or being passive-aggressive, or gaslighting. Do you know what gaslighting means? Gaslighting means when you are in the wrong, but you manipulate your spouse to think that it is actually them who's overthinking things, or them who is wrong, or, things like that. And of course, there is infidelity. It can be either physical, emotional, or again, financial. And, when things are really not going well, the thing that breaks down first is communication. Lack of communication is the biggest destroyer of a marriage. There's something called the 4 horsemen of signaling the doom of a marriage. Okay, and this is not only lack of communication, but communication in certain kind of circumstances. So one is criticism. When you're constantly criticizing your spouse, okay, this is where the words never and always come in. You never put the toilet seat back down, okay? Or you never come home on time. Or you never help with the chores. Or you're always late. Okay, these words, it does not acknowledge all the times that the spouse did the thing right. It only picks on the time the spouse did the thing wrong and then harps on that. Okay, the second thing is contempt, when you actually start hating your spouse. Okay, when you actually start hating your spouse. And the third is defensiveness. Defensiveness, it completely ends conversations or discussion. Whenever somebody says something to you or your spouse says something to you, you become immediately defensive. Okay? When somebody asks, why did you come home late? And then immediately become, you're always suspecting me of doing something wrong, or you're always suspecting me of going somewhere else and doing something. So that kind of defensiveness. And the last thing is stonewalling. Stonewalling is when you're trying to communicate with your spouse, but they just completely shut off and they don't communicate with you. So the most important thing in a marriage is avoiding these four and keeping open channels for communication. How do you resolve these, differences which come sometimes because of our nature and sometimes because of other problems? The first is to recognize. And my small attempt today was to help the women recognize the problem that men face and the men recognize the problem that women face. And for both the man and the woman in living in a family to recognize the problems that they are facing together in the family. So, like Pastor said, recognition and coming to seek help is the most important part. Okay, the second thing is to understand their point of view, and an extension to that would be to empathize with them. Okay, to empathize with the problem that they are facing. And then seek help. Seeking help can be either with senior pastors or other couples who you're close to in church or at work or elsewhere, or even seek spiritual guidance. The Bible is full of wisdom about how to deal with marital problems. Like, for example, James 1:19 says, be quick to listen. So quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to anger. Ephesians 5:33 similarly says, let each man love his own wife as himself, and let the wife see that she respects her husband. So if we are willing to understand each other, see each other's point of view, and accept that there is a problem and seek help, there is always a way forward. With this, I'd like to end my talk and hand over the time to.
Thank you, Dr. Joel, for reminding us that how we can work better on our marriages and be a better spouses for each other.
Our final panelist, Dr. Coberson, will be speaking about pastoral burnout. Sir, can you please share with us what this term pastoral burnout means, and how can pastors strike a balance between serving God and also serving the community and without exhausting themselves?
Thank you so much. I have learned a lot listening to all the experts in their own field. And I must say that every topic that has been discussed, we were just scratching the surface. And we could take 1 hour, 2 hours, many sessions on each topic. So the same goes for this topic. And first, I just want to say or define what is ministry or pastoral burnout. And the definition of this is that the moment or season when a pastor loses the motivation, hope, energy, joy, and focus required to fulfill his work. No more motivation. That is pastoral burnout. And secondly, ministry burnout is real. As you can see in this survey, 2023, the General Conference conducted the Global Adventist Pastor Survey, where 12,380 Adventist pastors were surveyed. And that is about 40% of Adventist pastors around the world. And the survey indicated that most of these pastors had fulfillment in their ministry. They enjoyed the pastoral ministry. However, the survey also reveals some disturbing concerns here. 44% said that they were drained of physical and emotional energy. 10%, they said they had no one to counsel with, to talk to about their problems. Again, another 28% said there's nobody who seems to care for them. And another 28% said sometimes they have been thinking of leaving the pastoral ministry. So now the question is, how does pastoral burnout occur? Dr. Hibbert William, who is an Andrews University professor, she gives various reasons, various causes, and I just want to share a few of them. The first one is excessive workload. This seems to be the leading cause. In some churches, you will see that the pastor is virtually almost everything. He's like a one-man army. He comes and opens the church, he sweeps, takes care of the building, he preaches, he teaches, he visits hospitals, homes, conducts marriage and communion, children's child dedication, and you can name it. So many, many things he has to do. And so trying to balance all these responsibilities becomes very tiresome for that pastor. And eventually, when you are in an environment where your church members are a little more, let's say, criticizing or maybe gossiping, it becomes more difficult for the pastor to handle the situation, and he has pastoral burnout. And then the next reason is wrong expectations. Many church members expect pastors to do almost everything, to be a role model, as a pastor, good preacher, a good teacher, perhaps even a good parents. But when the pastors are not able to meet those expectations, the pressure grows. And that's how it contributes to ministry burnout as well. And then the next one is personal life challenges. You see, pastors, like everyone else, face many, many challenges, like all of us. Family issues, marital conflicts. Don't think that pastors, do not have problem with their spouses. Health problems, financial stress, lack of exercises or rest, lack of time for pleasure. Another reason is that they are not able to manage all these in their lives. So what are the consequences of pastoral burnout? It is not good for the pastor as well as for the church. I was very surprised to learn of this pastor here, Pastor Jared Wilson, who was a mega church pastor. And he used to preach a lot and talk about mental health. However, he himself went through depression and eventually committed suicide. That was a very big loss. Fuller Seminary found that 50% of ministers drop out of ministry in the first 5 years. And many of them do not wish to go back to the pastoral ministry. So the question now is, this next question is, how do we prevent a pastoral burnout? And I would like to believe that everybody needs to be involved in this. Several groups of people. The first group would be the church leadership, the employing organization. They should not burden the pastor. Some of our graduates from Spicer, when they go back and work in their fields, they pastor 2-3 churches or even 4-5 churches. And you can imagine the impact, the pressure they get, and they have to give reports. They have to have goals for baptism, and if they don't meet those, they are questioned, and they may not get even promotion. You see, lots of pressure on them. And the church leadership, I believe, should organize training programs for them regularly. And also perhaps have what we call Pastor's Appreciation Day. I have not seen that for a while. I am not sure whether we do this in India or not. Perhaps we do in some places. But the General Conference has earmarked October 10 as Pastor's Appreciation Day. And perhaps we can do something for all our pastors, especially our pastors over here, the church pastors. And secondly, the church family. Please recognize that pastors, like everyone else, have their needs, their challenges, their problems. They are not angels, right? In fact, since they have to care not only for their own family, but for the church family, they have extra burdens. So let us understand our pastors. pray for them, have compassion on them. And perhaps sometimes we should not burden them so much. I think that way we can help them. Thirdly, the pastor's family. I think one person who can be a tremendous source of support and encouragement is the pastor's wife. She is the one who can either break or make the pastor. You know, many pastors fail and burn out because their wives, since they know their husbands very well at home, you know, tend to criticize and pass judgment on their husbands, their pastor. And what happens? The pastor loses the confidence and is not effective anymore in the ministry. And of course, the children, they can also contribute positively or negatively. Lastly, the pastor himself. So ultimately, it comes down to the pastor himself. He must learn to manage stress so that he does not burn out. I think regular exercise is very important so that his physical, his mental can be built up. A periodic rest is important. Some pastors, you know, they go for several weeks of holiday. In some places we may not be able to do that, but there should be some kind of vacation planned with the family. You see, when the apostles from their first missionary journey, Jesus told them to have some rest. If you read Mark chapter 6, verse 30-31, it says here, the apostles gathered around Jesus and reported to him all they had done and taught. Then because so many people were coming and going, they did not even have a chance to eat. He said to them, come with me by yourselves to a quiet place and get some rest. We need to take breaks. And I think that the church must recognize this. And finally, the pastor must not neglect personal devotion. You see, if you look at the life of Jesus, he often spent time alone with his Father in heaven in a mountainside. And once he come out of that, he was refreshed, full of vigor and strength to continue his ministry. And so as pastor, if we neglect that devotion, we cannot have the strength to be able to reach out to others. You know, Elijah, as Dr. Sharon mentioned, he experienced this great victory on Mount Carmel. But when Queen Jezebel threatened his life, what happened to him? He became afraid. He ran away. He went into depression and even wanted to die. He felt isolated. He experienced this loss of purpose. And so God gave him rest, nutrition, a new perspective, and a new purpose. And therefore, only God, as Dr. Warikan also said, and my doctor also said, only God can help us, renew our spirit, give us a new purpose, give us fresh vigor and zeal to continue. I would like to end with the comforting words of Jesus, who said in Matthew chapter 11, verse 28, Jesus said, come to me all you who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. And as pastors, and all of us, not just pastors, but parents, church leaders, children, young people, the only place where we can gain our strength is in the presence of the Lord. Every morning, every evening, and even throughout the day, we need to keep in touch with the Lord. And that way, we will never have burnout in our life. God bless you.
So as we come to the end of our session, I would like to thank all our panelists for sharing their opinions and experience. So church, today's discussion reminds us that mental health is not something to hide or ignore. These are the real struggles that many people are facing silently. But one thing we must remember, that struggling doesn't mean that we are weak. And it does not mean that your faith is failing. It simply means that we are humans. God never designed us to go through life alone. He gave us His presence, but also gave us people, friends, and counselors to walk with us. As a church, let us become a place where people don't feel judged, but understood. Not rejected, but supported. Not silenced, but heard. There is a hope and healing is possible. You are deeply loved by God. Let us choose today to care not just spiritually, but emotionally, support one another, as emotional support has become a very important necessity for our human body and mind, just as we take our supplements in the morning. So let us practice for each other that we support and give emotional support in all ages to our elders, to our husbands, families, children, because this is very important, that will carry us far away and keep us closer to our God. In the last, I would like to say that I encourage all of you to join the health camp that we are conducting. It's not only a health camp, but all our medical team has come up to create the bonding between our church community and in all age, that let us come together and enjoy and support each other as emotionally, and let us stand together as a church for each other, that we are loved by God. Thank you.
Check.
Check.
There are times in this life when fear is so heavy and burdens weigh on your mind. You are weak in the knee, and no strength can you find. But just hold on, help's right on time. My Jesus is always on time. And though you may see a valley, He sees the mountain you'll be standing on. When all you can see are the tears falling down, I'm so glad He sees what we don't. I've seen God's children walk through the darkest of midnights. I've witnessed faith put to the test, and I have watched as the storm blew in with the thunder. But in each trial, He knows what's best, and I am so glad that He knows what's best. And though you may see a valley, He sees the mountain you'll be standing on. When all you can see are the tears falling down, I'm so glad He sees what we don't. He knows knows the end from the beginning. He looks ahead past the hurt and the pain to a place where the peace passes all understanding. He sees the sun through the rain, and though you may see your valleys, He sees the mountain you'll be standing on. When all you can see are the tears falling down, I'm so glad He sees what we don't. And I am so glad He sees what we don't.
On behalf of the Health and Temperance Department of our church, I want to take this opportunity to sincerely thank our participants in our panel today for the wonderful presentations they made. Dr. Sharon, Sister Lukia, Dr. Varikan, Dr. Joel, Dr. Koberson, and our moderators here, Mrs. Monica and Ms. Priscilla. Thank you for the time that you have taken. Some of them, as you know, are medical doctors, very busy, but they have taken the time to be here with us, and we really appreciate each participant for our program this evening. Please note that this is not the end of our week-long emphasis on health. This is the beginning. As Mrs. Monica said, on Sunday, we have a health run followed by a health camp at the student center. Please make sure you register. And we also want you to know that we have a temperance contest on Tuesday morning at 10 o'clock during the chapel time for the college students. If you have not registered for this, please register or meet Mr. Abhishek Lakra. He is coordinating this, and make sure you give your name. And for the children, the campus kids and others, smaller age group, please give your name to your Sabbath School teachers so they can pass on their names. Thank you once again, each one of you, for being here this evening. We want to have a special prayer of dedication for all our campus families, our faculty, our staff, and every student, members of our community at Spicer, that God may bless them with good health and long life and happiness and joy as they continue to be here on this campus. We are going to have this special prayer offered by Dr. Jason Israel. I'd like to invite him to please come up, and this will also be our closing prayer.
Shall we all stand together? Our Heavenly Father, the Supreme One in this universe, God who said, I am the Lord that healeth thee. You are interested in our health, physical, mental, and spiritual health. Thank you, precious Father, as we came to worship you tonight. You spoke to us through your children on different aspects. And we thank you, O God, that tonight you have touched every age group. and the struggles that we are going through. We specially dedicate our children, our young people who are going through some difficult moments, some rough patches in their lives. Lord, it's not just the young ones, but all of us are struggling with this screen time and this social media. We ask you for strength and help. We also ask you, Lord, that in those moments of anxiety, uncertainty, that Lord, you are available, you are accessible, you are ready to help us. May we look to you and may you come through to us. We thank you that Jesus went through every negative emotion.
Please collect them from the front of the church. Thank you very much. Good night. God bless you.